All right, let's move to another issue. You're watching Q&A, where you can send in your questions by web or video. Go to our website to find out how to do that. Our next question tonight comes from Morgan Smallbone.
My question's for Bob Katter. During the election campaign, I heard one of your constituents, a gay baker, say that you had claimed that there were no gay people in your electorate. Do you believe that your willful ignorance on such issues as homosexuality are appropriate in this day and age, and are becoming of an MP holding the balance of power in a parliament that represents all Australians, not just the homosexual-free utopia of Kennedy?
There's a lot of people that want us to concentrate on what I consider to be, and I think that most people will consider to be, a small problem. Now, you probably don't consider it to be a small problem. You know, in the bigger picture of things, it is just not something that occupies a lot of my consciousness. And if there's some offline remarks about that, I can assure you can find 10,000 other offline remarks that I've made at various times. And,
can I interrupt just to remind you of one of them? Is it true that you said you'd walk backwards from Burke if there are any gays in your electorate? Because it's been interpreted as a homophobic remark.
No, there was a second half to that, and John Laws put it on about 5 mornings in a row because there was a humorous element. And I mean, look, if we can't crack jokes in this country, you know, I think we may as well close down. You know, we want the freedom to be able to say things. And if you say things at times that may be offensive to some people, a lot of people say a lot of things that are offensive to me, I can assure you. And I'm sorry if I've offended somebody or said something offensive, but geez whiz, I cop about 20 of them a day.
Bob, sorry, I just think that you speak quite eloquently and passionately about the high levels of suicide in your electorate, and I wonder if denying the existence of a person might tend to lead them to have such thoughts themselves.
I don't want to go over the number of people that have committed suicide in my electorate as a result of the policies of the two major parties. They can be directly put back to those people. Just let me finish. Please let me finish. Right? I don't know, and I hope there isn't any people of that persuasion that have committed suicide. Now, maybe there is, but I'm not aware of them in North Queensland, and I've kept a very, very tight watch on the suicide issue, I can assure you.
Let's hear from Rebecca.
I take your point, but I just answer it that way.
Let's hear from Rebecca Huntley, who's actually done some research on this issue.
Well, I wouldn't want to... Bob, you know my family comes from North Queensland, and there isn't I don't think there's hardly an MP in this country that knows their electorate as well as you, but I can honestly tell you there are gay people in North Queensland. They probably don't visit your electorate regularly, your electorate office regularly. And the second thing I'd say is, OK, maybe it is a minority issue. Maybe it's something that is only a real issue for 7 or 8 people. But as an independent, you are raising issues that are also maybe only an issue for 7 or 8 people. So just because it's a minority issue doesn't mean it doesn't deserve some legitimacy. And I've never been one to say, let's talk about 3 or 4 issues and not think about secondary ones. Because let's face it, if we just only focus on the majority issues, we won't deal with a whole range of things.
I must answer that, Tony. I must answer that. I must answer Rebecca.
I'm not stopping you.
No, but there's... every one of those 20 points that I put down there, and I could be wrong here, but concerns millions of Australians. Mm-hmm. This is not something that concerns millions of Australians.
I disagree.
And I don't mean to denigrate the issue, but I'm just saying to you that there are serious problems. The gentleman touched on suicides. I can tell you what are fanning them. I can tell you exactly where the heartland of the suicides is. It's where the dairy industry was deregulated by both major parties. That was where it is in the Kennedy electorate, and that is where it is in Australia. And both parties were told that before they deregulated that industry. Now, a couple of big chains made an awful lot of money out of that decision. And these people lost 30% of their income out of that decision. And they were bankrupted. I had 240 of them. Now there's 60 left. I spoke to Rob Oakeshott yesterday. He had 160. He's down to 50 now. Now, every one of those people that went bankrupt that is just the most terrible thing for them. And that's the same in the sugar industry and every other rural industry in this country. And nobody cares. Well, suddenly we've got a situation where we've got a bit of power and we care, I can assure you of that.
OK, we've got some hands up in the audience. I'm going to go to down the front row first. Yep.
You are one of 3 men in this country that get to decide the leaders of this country. You seem to focus on North Queensland. There's a bigger picture here. We're in a war. We have many, many people throughout this country who are discriminated against every single day. It affects their children, it affects their families. Yet you seem to deny the fact that the rest of the country is out there. When are you going to take consideration for the rest of the country and the bigger picture and actually look at the hard questions?
You're entitled to criticise me if you read the 20 points. Obviously, you haven't read the 20 points, because if you had, and if you'd listened to me tonight, I did not mention agriculture, I mentioned manufacturing. I don't have a manufacturing electorate. You said I was just looking after the people of North Queensland and Kennedy. We're not a manufacturing area. And my first question tonight was answered on the basis of manufacturing, and I referred to the motor vehicle industry. So, I mean, your prejudices are flashing neon lights, my friend.
No, they're easy. They're the easy answers.
All right, I'm going to move on a little bit. We're going to...
No, they're already focusing on Labor and Liberal. Hang on, there is a third party here that got, 14% of the vote or something. Some of their policies are pretty scary to me, I can tell you. Now, I think it's good that the public will now see exactly what the Greens are about. And I have to say, they're a deeply left-wing party, but they're now in alliance with the Labor Party, which is going to be fascinating.
Bob Katter, well, Nick Mitchin raises this question of the alliance with the Labor Party. Does it affect your decision at all?
Obviously I'm coloured by those things. There's a freedom issue. I went around, we had these meetings, and I would have said these were the concerns of Australia, but they weren't. People talked about health, they talked about rising cost of living. Yeah. But this is the point where, the carbon tax scares the hell out of me. I mean, electricity came up. No, listen to me, please. Electricity came up.
We're all ears,
They're agreeing.
Go for it.
The whole of Australia's listening.
Electricity came up again and again, particularly from older people. I mean, electricity costs charges are going to rise, there's no doubt about that in Queensland, 60% over the next 3 years. Now, you put a carbon tax in, you can add an extra 20%. That's the actual ALP government's figures on their own carbon tax proposal. 20% rise in electricity charges. Now, I mean, the current, the direct action that Tony Abbott is going on with, God bless him, that's terrific. But they were there for 12 years. They did nothing about it whatsoever. And the current government has actually acted with the clean energy corridor. And I mean, there's going to be huge reductions in carbon. And I just went over the figures today before I came in here. If we switch our sugar mills over to producing electricity instead of burning the fibre simply to get rid of it, you're talking about 12% of Australia's electricity, along with the clean energy corridor, and 35% of our fuel is going to be clean. Now, I mean, the alternative to that, to me, is if you put a price on carbon, I know what's going to happen. They're going to race out there and plant trees, and we're going to create securities that are going to be bought and sold. I mean, Grenville, Goldman Sachs and all these companies, they're rubbing their hands together now. There'll be another 10,000 million of securities. They'll go out there and plant a whole stack of trees, which the monoculture has been a terrible event in Australian history for the environment of Australia.
Right.
And they're going to plant all these trees, they're going to die.
The monoculture and the monologue.
Well,
we don't have them on this program. OK.
I think Bob and I would
response.
actually agree on getting rid of the 100% tax deduction for managed investment schemes, though.
Absolutely.
I think we would have a commonality of interest on that.
It is an important point that I was making, Tony.
No, I'm
rubbishing it.
I'm not saying that. There are other questions, and we have to answer quite a few.
You forgot about ethanol, Bob.
Okay.
I was a bit worried about that.
You're watching Q&A. If you want to join the discussion or ask a question yourself, go to...